Shark rescue, too close for comfort. Last night, Dad and I went fishing off the jetty. It was unusual, but there were no ships in, so we had lots of room at the main wharf, and there were no safety rails to fish over. It was open to the harbour. The tide was running out fast and perfect for whiskers salmon. The water, some 6 metres below us, was just a dull glimmer in the jetty's lights. Dad had a 45 kilogram breaking strain line wound around a large red handrail, a big sinker to handle the swift current, and decent-sized hook threaded with fresh mullet that I'd caught earlier in the day. He unwound some of the line and let it drop down loosely on the deck, and then began swinging the rig around his head, gradually letting line out and increasing its radius. When he had a fair speed up and the line was whistling through the air, he let it all go, and the hook, bait and sinker arched out of the water, disappearing into the dark. We heard it splash. He let the line run out with the tide and then looped it around one of the jetty's thick timber piles and put the reel down on the deck. He came over and gave me a hand to cast my own line, then went out further along to throw a third line out, and we were all set. It wasn't long before one of the farthest lines took off and Dad hauled in a medium-sized salmon. He rebaited the hook once again and swung it out deep into the harbour. About 20 minutes later, the big line took off, and bracing his foot against the wharf's solid edge beam, he carefully unwound it from around the pile and began hauling in his fish. It fought hard and he was sweating by the time it neared the jetty and broke the surface, kicking water everywhere. I had a torch shining down the 6-metre drop, and we saw that he had hooked a metre-long baby shark, which was threshing against the piles. Dad cursed. A shark was not what he wanted. He hauled on the thick line and lifted the shark up above the surface. Before he was able to take another handhold, a huge grey adult shark surged up out of the water, severed the line with one bite and a shake of its head, and freed the baby. They both hit the water with a great splash and were gone in an instant. I nearly dropped the torch, as suddenly 6 metres seemed not much distance at all. Dad had been taking the strain and leaning out over the edge to see down as he lifted. The powerful tug from the shark's bite had unbalanced him, and for a moment he swayed farther out. When the line snapped, he suddenly fell backwards onto the wharf. The handrail hit the deck, rattled off and rolled away for a distance before settling. We both looked at each other in silence for a moment, and then without a word began to wind in the lines and packed up our gear. When we were done, we threw the spare bait out into the water and then walked along the jetty and out to where the car was waiting for us. It was near the Esplanade Hotel. When we got into the car, Dad looked at me and laughed in relief, and we drove home. We didn't tell Mum the whole story for a few days, and as expected, she was horrified. For a while I had to sneak out to go fishing at the jetty and not tell her. Ever since the Finucane Island skiing trip with Tony Wiles, she's had a morbid fear of things in the ocean that have teeth, which is most things.